Good morning, marvelous math specialists. Welcome to our April flipped meeting. Hope you are all doing well and everyone is safe. Take it away, Melissa.
All right, so we decided to start with this just because spring has been and continues to be kind of a stressful, crazy time for us and our students. So just a remembering that try to bring some humor into your day and into the students' day, into the teachers' day. So we actually found this little excerpt from Patrick, who is one of our Math Learning Center people. And so it's word for word what he said, but then we just included a few jokes that you might be able to include either with the students or with the teachers. So remember to laugh, everybody.
We really are so grateful for everything that you did to make April 5th a successful day. Some of you also supported the dyad training around Pear Deck and that. Our feedback has been really positive. We've had a chance to watch some of the videos and I think that the day went really well. We got really good feedback from the Math Learning Center consultants as well about the caliber of professionalism, engagement, types of questions and responses that our staff had for that day. One thing that percolated maybe even a little bit before the 5th was a desire on some teachers' part to have intervention binders. Because we know that you cannot have enough binders in your classroom. And we were intentional about not getting those for everybody because we felt that that would be a lot of real estate that would be taken up in the classroom, and that teachers might be frustrated by that. But now we're hearing that some people wish that they had that. And one thing that we would like to suggest that people try first maybe is uploading their binder into, or downloading into the Books app. And we talked about that with some things last year, I think. And I know Steve did that quite a bit. And then I ended up doing that when it was some of the work I was doing at Monroe. And it was wonderful to teach off of the iPad. So what we did was we made like a 4.5-minute tutorial that we will share today with all the MSs on how to do that. And I think because people can write on that too once they download the volume that they want and then they upload it into that Books app, then they can access it, they can write on it, and their notes are saved, and they can bookmark it and all that. So we're going to ask people to give that a shot, and beyond that, I guess that's going to have to be a decision that we'll have to deal with, on an individual basis. I don't know if people have had a chance to look into this link yet, but there is a lot of support for teachers that are providing interventions remotely. And so there's just some good ideas there. People have been very appreciative of it in looking at the feedback that is posted.
So the student math kits are ever changing, the messaging that we're giving. So right now, what we're asking is that the teachers collect these at the end of the year and keep the kits intact. And I know we had discussed disassembling the kits and adding them to the classroom supplies, but because of the nature of the future, and we just never know what's going to happen, we're asking that the teachers just keep them intact. There is a possibility they might be used for summer school, and we really don't know what the fall is going to look like either. And so we just don't want to take any chances and would like those to be ready to go just in case. So this year, if you can just pass along to the teachers to collect those, keep them in the back of their classrooms, in the container or whatever it is that the students have them in. At this point, we don't know what we'll do with kits that are missing pieces. we're working on that, and how we're going to either replace those pieces or will we just leave the kits with what they have. So messaging will continue to come on that.
Melissa, then would you like an inventory to be on the boxes so that for whenever you need them, then you know which box has what missing? Or, I mean, we could have the students do the inventory, and just stick something on the box, and then, I don't know, just what your thoughts are.
Right, that is a good idea. Let us mull over that and see what we're gonna do if as far as when things are missing, and then we'll get back to you on that as well. We have a little bit of time here before the kits will be collected, so hopefully we'll have some messaging for everybody soon on that.
So
Some people might be. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we had a staff meeting. I just jumped in late. Because the previous messaging had been that the teachers would would be able to put the materials back into their classroom collection. So that was the messaging I sent to my staff in the email after one of our meetings. So this might be not easy to do.
Well, they should still, the kids should not be sharing materials at this point in time.
No, I know, but I just send the messages as I get them. So I don't know where people are at with that.
Yeah. So that will be the ultimate plan, but we're just not sure when we can advise teachers to do that, because we don't know if kids will still need to be using individual kits in the fall, because we don't know with variants and resurgence and all of that, what our capacity is going to be for kids sharing materials in the fall. So we're just going to ask people to pause on that. That is our ultimate goal, is to be able to just put everything into the classroom coffers, but not yet. But with the math rack, though, the expectation with those math racks that the kids build in K2 is that they take them home at the end of the year. And at this point in time, that is still the plan for the kids to take them home, right? So, but that, I mean, with the ever-changing nature of everything in this world right now, it's possible that messaging might change as well. We're trying to, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is access to materials for our summer school kids, and they'll probably need to have individual manipulative kits. So what is it that they're going to need? And what about the kits that don't get returned? We'll figure that one out, Chris. There's just so many unanswered questions right now, and it's really hard to come to you with messaging that feels a little bit incomplete and like we don't have all the answers. But I mean, honestly, that's our reality right now. But we're exploring different ideas for the children that are participating in summer school for how they can access materials that they need to successfully engage in that summer school math experience.
So this is just a reminder that the May-June learning frameworks are coming out soon, and they are combined. So this will be the last learning frameworks that'll be coming out this year. And they were coming out on April 20th. We do have a link here for the folder that they'll be kept in. And make sure that you're looking those over carefully, because there are some grade levels that modules will be skipped. There's also some grade levels that there's some suggestions made for evidence for grading. So for instance, the CGA could be used, and the number corner checkup 4 could be used. And I know there's certain grade levels that there's some suggestions saying, if you need evidence for this or for that, that's in there. So just keep your eyes open for it'll be an interesting, last learning framework, just because we're trying to get everything in that we need to get in before the end of the year. And obviously we haven't covered all the curriculum. Any questions about that?
Could I ask a question? I was going to type it in there by the time I do it. Is the CGA, the Common Growth Assessment, that's that longer assessment that's in the end of the book?
Yes, it is. And we haven't really ever you know, suggested to teachers to use it. Well, it's been a suggestion, but it's never
Right.
been used fully. So, but
Because
I've looked it over and just found some certain questions that might help with evidence for grading.
Okay, but use it discriminatory. I remember it was very long assessment. We had talked about using it for perhaps a special ed or a kid out of district or something to get a lot extra. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Kelly asked a good question in the chat about what resources teachers will be using for summer school. And in case you're not in the chat, I just typed in that Do the Math is going to be that material that will be available for summer school teachers. But summer school teachers do have some leeway to use other resources as well. So if they would like to use the Bridges or CPV, tools that they have experience with and have shown to be successful with their students.
All right, if there's not any more questions, we'll move forward.
I think Chris Kabuki had a question about, can you use Bridges intervention in summer school?
Well, I think that would be a suggestion because it has such a quick screener and you could get the kids going and then you could get them unless the other thing is I'm not sure what you're using for determination when they get to summer school for math. I know we had a couple of data points, but they were not as strong as in the past. But
well, and that could be out of date by the time summer school comes about. So
I think the assumption is they're probably not at grade level if they're in summer school, but that, I don't know, this year everything's so crazy, who knows?
Okay, so the MCA testing window has been extended, which we discussed in the last one. So it goes through May 21st. And we are expecting the teachers continue to follow the learning frameworks. It's been get everything in as it is. We did build into the learning frameworks time for the MCA test prep and to take the MCA. And of course, every school will be doing it different. So things will just need to be adjusted as they need to be adjusted. So I know, for instance, I believe third grade, it was built into April, the MCA, but if you're taking it in May, just adjust things accordingly. Okay, so the grading for trimester 3, we do have the link down here for the grading recommendations. And again, we do have a list there for suggestions if teachers do need more evidence for their trimester 3 grading. Those are the places that they can look to. I have gotten a couple questions because obviously our grading document has not been switched to model what our learning frameworks are for this year. And that's simply because the amount of manpower it would take and conditional formatting just to change it for one trimester, that would just be too much. And so, for instance, I believe it's either grade 2 or 3 that unit 5, they're still finishing up unit 5. And the assessment, of course, is in Tri-2 grading doc. So teachers will just need to keep track of that the old-fashioned way and use that for grading at the end of Tri-3. But again, it's too much to change that whole grading doc when it's going to be back to normal next year, knock on wood. And so you'll just have to make adjustments or have the teachers make adjustments with that.
A question came up in the last meeting about grade 1, unit 6, because there were some suggestions, if needed, to prioritize different questions on that unit assessment. And then it came up that, well, like Melissa was saying, that changes then what that coloration is going to be. And, we just can't possibly go in, like she was saying, and fix everything, especially when people have already made their copy of the MEG for that try. We can't go to every teacher in the district and adjust all of that. So there is some messaging for that grade 1, unit 6 assessment that the recommendation is to give the entire assessment, but there are some priorities of questions, depending on the time frame that teachers have and all that. You know, we've got some schools that missed 2 days of learning this week. You know, that impacts where we are and how those teachers are going to fit things in for their students. Let's see, another thing, the comm slides are being worked on right now for the end of the year, and people have asked about that timeline for giving the assessment. Remember, we're not putting that into EPR, but there are some suggestions in the learning framework that will be coming out next week about when teachers could give what they need to give to get the information that they need for grading.
Margaret, you mentioned grade 1, unit 6 assessment with priority questions. Are the priority questions listed, or I was just...
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions on grading?
So we found, we provided a link for the success criteria. Melissa, do you want to click on the link?
Sure.
So this is more of a interesting to know at this point in time, with people getting ready for MCAs very, very shortly. But this is available, as you can see, from the MDE website, and it really gives very clear expectations for what it looks like for, you know, partially meets, I think, and meets and exceeds for the different grade levels. And I think that would be really helpful for us as we move forward in looking at work that's done this summer and preparations for next year. I don't know that I would share that with my team right now, because their stress level is probably already maybe way up there. And we don't want to push anybody over the edge, but just to have this in your back pocket, I think it could be very useful as we move forward.
So we've included, I'm not sure how many people have time to go to the Bridges website, but they have some really fun spring activities that they've put out there. Some spring that you can use with the app. And so there's a blog here and another link to the share your work feature, just in case teachers need a refresher on that. So encourage teachers to take a look at that. We've also wrote them into most of the learning frameworks, because as you know, there's no June number corner activities. And so this would be a wonderful thing that teachers could go to during that number corner time in June and get some fun activities for the students to work on that are engaging and still keeping them doing the math that they need to do.
So Melissa, as you're talking about that, yesterday I spent quite a bit of time looking at the June weeks for KN1 and what I put in there, and everything that I put in there in it, and I say it on the document too, is just, you know, options, suggestions. Teachers can do whatever, but I also suggested activities from earlier number corner that don't require the big calendar setup, but some of the different games and other kinds of activities to help reinforce the learning that around those high leverage topics in those grade levels.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Margaret, because that spurred my memory that we've also included some T's that were missed because modules were skipped. So for instance, Unit 7, Module 2 and 3, I believe, are skipped in one of the grade levels, but there were some T's available. And so again, on those days where there's no number corner, some of those T's have been worked in, and I think it'll be nice for teachers because of course they can be done synchronously or asynchronously. So if during that number corner time, a teacher wants to pull a small group for an activity for re-engagement, they could assign that T asynchronously for the students to work on.
That may or may not happen at every grade level.
Exactly. Every grade level is a little bit different. It depends. We have some grade levels that are going right up until the end with units, and some grade levels where there's a few days at the end that teachers can choose from a variety of different activities the kids could do. So this, oh, go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, well, you are more than welcome to speak to this, but it is pretty cool that the Math at Home activities are on the Seesaw platform now. And one of the things that we've been working on, and then I'll turn it over to you, Melissa, is making sure that these links are on that Bridges, the BIM links document, because boy, I spent a lot of time on this yesterday, and it can be hard to, I mean, is there an organization to Seesaw? Because when I get there, it's just like all these T's and Math at Home activities, and they're kind of mixed up with different grade levels and mixed up with different units. So it was kind of a big deal to go through and find what unit the different ones went with. So I think that BIM links doc will be really useful in being able to navigate the Math at Home Seesaws. Do you want to add to that, Melissa?
No, I think you covered everything. Just a reminder, though, that blog post at the end, it is kind of a good little review about Seesaw. So for some of the teachers that haven't been using that, that's some suggestion that you could make there. Okay, so this is a little redundant from the other one, but I just wanted to point out that on June 1st, Math at Home, or I'm sorry, Math Learning Center will be coming up with some more Math at Home activities that will be released for summer. And so this would be something you might want to include in, if you do some kind of an end of the year letter for your families, that there will be a whole new group of Math at Home activities on the website. So just encouraging families to use those over the summer with their students. And staying with that topic of helping at home, these are just 2 articles that, again, if you send us out some kind of a newsletter, if the teachers do, they can include these. So this is just 2 articles from Math at Home that talk about helping kids to learn from mistakes and the growth mindset. And then finally, we just included some of the upcoming Bridges webinars. Again, I know it's hard for busy people to get to the Bridges website. So these are the webinars that are coming up in the next month, and you can get to any of those or encourage the teachers to get to any of those. That would be wonderful.
Okay, so I was really excited to see Melissa put this slide on the show. I don't know if any of you had a chance to watch this video by Vi Hart, but she is absolutely amazing, and she has a collection of videos that she has made. Oopsie, sorry, to show that math is so much more than computation, and we learned about her through Tracy Zager's book, Becoming the Math Teacher You Wish You Had, which is really an amazing book. If you haven't had a chance to read that, that might be a good summer read. And just for thinking about starting next year on a fresh new foot. But it's pretty exciting to see and hear that there are new math discoveries that are happening all the time, because we often hear and believe that everything mathematical has been created centuries ago by dead white men. And there's all kinds of things that we are continuing to learn more about. So I just want to bring in my friend Honey, who has a strong connection to this video, and she may or may not have played a part in the making of Vi's movie. Just saying. Wave, there we go. And there's Honey, little photograph of her put in there. But we'd like to give you an opportunity to ask some questions or share some things at this point in time before we wrap up our time together. So is there some buzz, some questions, wonderings?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So at the beginning of our meeting, we talked about the binders, and I do have a handful of teachers that really want the paper copy. Our supplemental has added the books onto their app on their iPad, and I think teachers were feeling like they wanted the paper, so they're currently making copies. So you said if we deal with that individually, did you mean just at our building then that we would just determine with our principals if we're going to purchase binders, or would that be something that we'd work with the district on? Or
Well, we would like people to just consider trying the iPad to see how they like that, because I'm old and I like paper. I make my to-do list on paper every day, but once you take that step and just try it, just give it a go, you might find that it's actually pretty wonderful to use that as a teaching resource. I think what we'll need to do is just see what our needs are around that, and then have some further discussion with Anne about it. But our first response is, hey, let's just take a look at using the iPad for that. And of course, teachers would want to probably print up the practice pages and that sort of thing, but or maybe just print up a module, but that's just a lot, and we're not sure that people are, to make a blanket decision to do that for every school. I think we would be giving a lot of people more than what they want, and there would be a lot of expense tied into that. So keep us posted. If you could just suggest that to your teachers. Again, that video is only 4.5 minutes. Or, I think that probably most of you would be comfortable showing your staff how to do that as well. But it's so comfortable and so much less cumbersome to work off of that device rather than to have that big old clunky binder there.
Chris, you raised your hand?
Yeah, Kelly, we had the same thing. And actually what I did is, I don't know if you had some supplemental, you got like some of those binders for intervention with your supplemental. I just gave them to them. Like, I had them marked and they're going to use them just so they have them to look through them. And because my supplemental team, and I guess I agree with Margaret too, I'm pretty old fashioned, but it's all on my iPad. I've also tried to download. I just went into people and I said, let me just download it for you. I mean, it takes a couple minutes. I just went in and took their iPad now, and then they could just start with it there. Sometimes I think they're just overwhelmed. I don't know.
They are overwhelmed. And we do have none of our supplementals using the binders. So we did the apps for teachers, and the binders that we have are already taken out. So I do think they're just kind of up to here. So who knows, if we ask the question even next fall, maybe we'd have a different answer. But yeah, thank you.
Any other wonderings or questions that might have popped up?
Well, I guess I'm going to ask a hard question here. I know that there's a lit position open, and I just brought this up about content question. I know it's based on the No Child Left Behind, or the reading law by grade 3, read by grade 3. But are we going to look at some of the resource allocations for math if our scores are not very good? I hate to say it based on low score performance, but how is the resources going to be allocated for math? Not that I care because I won't be here, but I'm kind of just throwing out.
You care.
I care and just throw it out here because I'm not going to be here.
Yeah. Well, that decision to go with the literacy intervention teachers for next year is based off of the board's strategic priorities. And the board feels very passionately about the Read Well by Third Grade initiative, as well as the World's Best Workforce. So at this point in time, those resources will be allocated to reading in a valiant attempt to move the needle, which we've seen has not been moving the way people had hoped. So one of the things that we've been told that we can be reassured of is that that math will be protected, that there will be strong math voices and a collaborative spirit as we sit at the table and look at instructional minutes and where does that intervention time happen and all that. And so there will be some, we're going to really push for some clear, consistent messaging to make sure that that math is given its fair due. It may not get that same, it won't get that same level of additional support that ELA will be receiving for next year, but we should not be suffering a loss, if you know what I mean.
So,
Yeah, I think that would be the best thing if we could figure out a protected time to actually have interventions. Because if we've spent money on this intervention, and we do need the time to implement it to verify that it is good intervention, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't make progress if you don't meet with kids. So
right, yeah.
Margaret, I haven't heard anything about the literacy next year. So is every building receiving an extra support person? Or
the FTE allocations are going to be are being shared with principals this week, and some principals shared with their staff last Friday, I think, messaging around these new hires, and the postings went up this week. I don't know if they've gone up already or not.
I think they go up on Thursday.
They go up on Thursday. So there will be, if there isn't already, there will probably be some chatter around your buildings about all that and what it will look like and how much FTE do we get and do you get and all that. So we don't have any clue as to how much FTE any site is being given. We'll just have to look, I guess, if we're interested, look at the postings on Thursday.
okay, so it just depends. I mean, that it could go toward the LS being more full-time versus half-time, or it could be an extra person depending on, so it's different per building. It's just an amount that's going toward literacy. Is that correct? I'm just clarifying. I'm sorry. And
it's to go toward the hires of these intervention people.
Gotcha.
So I have no idea how the LS FTE is impacted or not impacted by this
Okay.
influx of funds in that area. But my understanding is that the LS position would, if it isn't already, it would be, that coaching role for next year. Because you think about it, if they've got, a couple of new people in this role and, and it's just supporting first best instruction as well as intervention work, that's going to be a lot.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
As best as we can.
Yeah, well, I had no idea, so it was a little information is better than nothing.
Well, and thank you, Chris, for bringing it up. Like, we put that slide in there and it's like, does anybody have, because we don't want to be the ones that bring it up, but if you bring it up, then we talk about it.
I look at it as I can advocate for my math intervention time, because if there's additional literacy people, then we can still have an allotted time for math. Because I have more people doing literacy.
Yeah.
Not just one.
yeah, and we want to preserve relationship. I mean, my LS is a great gal, and I don't like having this content clash when we need to make some decisions, and then I can teach them that. We can get forward, but
yeah,
it's kind of yo-yo effect. That's kind of
Yeah, we don't want to have territorial
Right. I don't want to go down that lane.
Oh
discussions.
gosh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
And
Ellen,
is-
that would never be the case.
Yeah.
And we've got to de-escalate the anxiety regarding reading. And I don't know how to do that because that's up there, but it's, every year, as I say, every year, the scores are falling, It's just,
Mhm.
it's kind of a hard message down here. So. I have one more question. Has anyone brought up some ideas about thinking about doing intervention about what the rest of the class is doing? Have people come up with any ideas for their teams and talking about it as we're getting going?
That's that age-old question, right?
Yeah.
Chris, I'm not sure I understand your question. Could you rephrase it or something?
Okay, when with the implementation of the new intervention model where classroom teachers are going to be doing more, we're calling them just-in-time interventions or unit connection interventions. What is the rest of the class doing that is meaningful? And currently, right now, we found that it used to be the computer was more of a draw, but because we've been online so much, it's not really that great. In fact, they're having more. It's almost like the reverse. It's like, we have to do something on the computer when they're at school.
I think that would be something that we could all benefit from having more conversation about. And perhaps some of you might have some observations or conversations with teachers at your site that are coming up with some strategies that seem to work well for that. What are the kids doing? Are they doing workplaces? Maybe doing some of that number corner.
My fifth grade diet teacher, what we did was we identified like what they needed. And so the ones who really needed a lot of more teacher instruction, they were with us, like had the intervention, and then the ones who were doing independent work, she found like math at home resources that met whatever their need was, or they did do some workplaces. So everybody got what they needed during intervention time.
Okay, I have one other thing. I'm just going to throw this out here because I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble, but NWEA has what's called mappers. Have you heard of this yet, Lynn and Margaret and Melissa? Okay, NWEA is taking the mappers. You're taking your map scores, and you can put in kids' individual map scores. And NWEA is working with Khan Academy, and it links the kids' map scores to where they should be at Khan Academy. And then they're working on everything they need based on what they had on their individual map scores.
So they're going to Khan Academy?
Based on their map scores. It's a prototype that NWA is working on right now. So I don't know if they're going to do it, but you do your map, and then it meets the kids right where they're at as far as their map scores.
So we don't endorse using Khan Academy.
Yeah. But I'm going to show you.
I would say, if that's out, you're just I'm thinking of a parent perspective, and it depends on your child. And we don't endorse that because we think of the conceptual thinking and developing that instruction. And so we know that piece, but having that available to them when parents don't have that understanding, and there's, even though there are procedures, I guess it depends on the child, but I'm not going to say recommend it from a school perspective, but it can be a helpful tool when a teacher or a parent has no way of
Oh, we lost your sound, Sean.
That'd be because I muted it. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, I'm not advocating for it. You know, I mean, I get it because when you look at it, it's very, when I've gone on there, it's been procedural and so forth. But I know when the math has been beyond me, when my kids have struggled and they've looked for a way to find how to do something, that's been helpful for them. So, you know, it's not something that elementary wise I would, but depending on the kid and they want to just go with it and they know their map score and where to find and let them be independent. I don't see that as a necessarily bad thing. Is it rich? No. But
Yeah. Well, hopefully at the elementary level, our families would be able to support their learner or reach out to the child's teacher if they needed to know more. You know, we've been trying to create a bank of videos ourselves and provide resources for our families to support elementary mathematics, because it's, you know, I mean, preaching to the choir, but you know that it's so much more than calculation and being able to get the right answer on that MCA test. This is the kid's opportunity to understand the mathematics. And if they don't have that conceptual foundation when they leave here, where are they going to get it when they get into middle and high school?
I also think in the past, and can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm only getting like every fourth word, which is an improvement from earlier. So I'm going to leave my camera off just to conserve things. But I know in the past, or I believe in the past, that parents were able to click on that NWEA score and be able to be brought to a different place. So I don't think it led to Khan Academy in the past, but there were some, you know, sometimes worksheets, sometimes an interactive kind of thing. And,
and you're right.
Yes, they weren't always great, but some people did use those as that extra practice. So it sounds like they are maybe changing things slightly and adding more information in. So that's good to know. I didn't know that they had added Khan Academy. But I think it has been a resource for parents in the portal. That's all.
Thank you for sharing that. We didn't know.
Yeah.
Any other questions or observations? Anything for the good of the group?
We had some teachers kind of wondering about the pacing for next year, and I know that's a little bit up in the air, but do you think that there's going to be a lot of adjustments made to the pace of next year if luckily we're in a normal school year?
We should be back to a more regular pacing, you know, the 5-day-a-week learning and building in some days for reflection and reteaching where we can. I know that teachers appreciated that. This year they've gotten way more than that than we ever bargained for. And of course, then that creates challenges in what we're able to get through. And there were some content areas that really received a minimal nod this year, and you know, we want to make sure that children have that robust experience as we move forward. So, but we'll be working with the Math Learning Center, you know, with how we support teachers with professional development and guidance with the pacing guides for next year, so that we can make sure that it feels doable and it honors where our students are, not where we wish they were. And, you know, how do we get to know our students earlier on so that we can really provide the experience that they need?